All right, welcome to Speak for Yourself. I'm Jason Whitlock, but more importantly, the man sitting next to me is that dude, Marcellus Wiley. Man, I've been waiting on you a long time. So glad to have you here.
Great to be here, brother.
To have you here.
Great to be here, guys, man. Excited about the opportunity. Go and get after it, so you better watch out, big dog.
All right, this is a special treat. This is a preview. Marcellus will start full time in about a week.
One and done?
Just a little treat, just a little teaser. Right. But also joining me today, Hall of Famer Eric Dickerson, former NFL player and scout Bucky Brooks. All right, but let's get to some news, starting with Colin Kaepernick, who may not have a job in the NFL, but just landed one selling shoes with Nike, featuring the activist quarterback in the company's Just Do It 30th anniversary campaign. Kaepernick has been on Nike's roster for several years, but this campaign reportedly marks the start of a massive deal worth millions of dollars. There's conflicting reports on this about how deep this partnership goes. I want to start here, Marcellus. For me, this undermines Colin Kaepernick as an activist. I think that if you're a true revolutionary, if you're a true activist, Jim Brown has been saying this about Kaepernick from the get-go, hey, either be a football player or be an activist. And this, to me, is a brand play. This is about business. And anytime I see business, and particularly major corporations like a Nike, stick their head into activism, it's really not about business. It's about marketing. It's about PR. And for me, for Kaepernick as an activist, I've never been that big on it, but this, to me, exposes what it's always been about, branding. Kaepernick is a brand. He's been trying to build a brand through this activism. When he couldn't build one as a great quarterback, he moved to this. Taking this Nike money and becoming the part of selling shoes as part of your activism doesn't play well for me.
See, listening to you and that take, it's alarming, the hypocrisy that comes out when you study what activism is, when you look at someone who's trying to be a revolutionary. This is old news. This is something that has happened before. If you want to go all the way back to Martin Luther King and his association with Coca-Cola after the Nobel Peace Prize winning and his dinner that was supported by Coca-Cola, the hypocrisy comes from that we're looking at messaging for profit as a negative instead of the positive that it is, because this all started off of activism, which was articulated, misconstrued, but needed to turn into action. Now you have major corporations like a Nike, Coca-Cola of the past, who are now in bed with activists who can now push this to the two levels that we need for anything to change in our society, which is policy and profits. That's just the way the game has changed, and this is the way the game is going to change. This is the evolution of that revolution.
I get the Martin Luther King deal. Soledad O'Brien hit me with it earlier in the day.
I just hit you with it, too.
I know, you just, I mean,
you ain't got to go all offset with it. I'm here, bro. Let's be the upstage me.
I'm just saying, people have hit me with it.
Yeah, okay.
Again, the Martin Luther King dinner was about, it was not going to be integrated. They wanted a segregated dinner, and Coca-Cola stepped in and said, no, we won't sponsor it unless it is integrated, and they moved. This is completely different, particularly when you understand Nike's relationship with labor and basically slave labor in Asia. Nike is trying to market its way and promote its way out of, they're the true hypocrites. If you want to talk about oppression, go look at the Asian slave laborers who make Nike shoes, and Nike's been criticized for this forever. If you go look at the discrimination lawsuits that Nike's dealing with, the executives they just fired over discrimination against women and blacks, this is all a PR play, in my view, from Nike. Again, I don't blame Kaepernick. He needs some money. But I don't, anytime.
Everybody needs some money.
How different is this than America's relationship with labor and slave labor, using your words? I mean, look, we could go a lot of places with this, but one place we shouldn't go is that an alliance with a major corporation that's going to promote your proper messaging is a negative. I don't understand it.
I think it's a positive. I think this is part of what Nike has done in the last couple years. You think about the equality campaign they did with LeBron James and several other stars. Having Colin Kaepernick, to me, is smart business by them. The reason is the demographic that he's going to touch, 18 to 29, young people. I have a 15-year-old son who is heavy into the sneaker game. Colin Kaepernick is viewed as a revolutionary by that genre, that generation. So Nike is in bed with a guy who is popular amongst them. He's going to sell a lot of shoes. And for Colin Kaepernick, he gets a big brand that gives him a huge platform to continue to sell and spread the message that he wants to send to young people.
Exactly. You know, Nike sells tennis shoes. Nike sells dreams, and that's what the Nike does. And this was his dream. He stood by it because he thought it is an injustice, and you have to respect that. I got to say, with Nike's known for standing by their people. Michael Jordan with the gambling, Kobe Bryant with the assault,
Lance
Armstrong,
Joe Paterno.
I mean,
Tiger Woods.
They stand by their people. So, and one thing is that with Nike, 2/3 of their customer base is under 35 years old. They're with the young. These are young people. These are the young. So they don't look at the message like, you know, he's disrespecting the flag. You know, they see something else. This is not about the flag. We said that all along.
Yeah.
This is not about the flag. That just became all of a sudden it's about the flag. He talked. Well, hold on.
I just want to deal with facts.
Okay.
Colin Kaepernick, when first questioned about this, said he would not respect the flag of a country that oppresses people. But that's what. So he made it about the flag.
But really, you know, it really is not. He might have said that, but it's really not about the flag. It's about the oppression that has went on here in the United States for many years. And so with Nike stepping up and stepping in, like I see all these people burn their tennis shoes. The NFL has a long relationship still with Nike for 10 years. The thing about Nike is they don't need the National Football League. We're a $120 billion company. We can stand on our own.
And I want to deal with that. We'll get to the NFL reaction, but I just want to deal with why I think this is a mistake for Nike. Because it feels good and it sounds good right now. It's the PC thing to do. I saw a television network make this same kind of mistake when they named Caitlyn Jenner the most courageous person of the year. And they planted a PC flag that has backfired. That was a turning point in the narrative about the worldwide leader in sports, and they've yet to recover from it. And so for Nike, I don't think this is going to work for Nike because, again, the left and these progressives that are so in love with Colin Kaepernick have long been criticizing Nike about their policies and the slave labor over in Asia. I just don't think these guys are just going to automatically hop on board as passionately because they've jumped behind Kaepernick. And then I think there's a whole other group that will be so outraged and irritated by this. Nike made billions of dollars and built this brand with Michael Jordan staying out of politics. It's very dangerous when you jump in here as a corporation.
I haven't been here one day. He already taking shots at my ex. I mean, look, you come up to the worldwide leader like, can I settle into this chairperson? Talk about my ex like that. We was good. We had a good relationship. 11 years strong. A lot of kids. Here's the thing. I don't understand why you want to draw the line on Kaepernick. Like, your ethical compass is now pointing at Kaepernick and saying that's the wrong direction. When we just said Jordan, Tiger Woods, Kobe Bryant, these are all situations where Nike said we're going to sell our shoes by supporting our athletes. And I love a company that has the latitude of character to allow you to be a Tiger Woods who is not going to be political. And then you're going to have a guy like a LeBron James who is going to be political. They have that wide landscape, and I love the fact that they're supporting their athletes.
Well, I don't want to be a prisoner of the moment, but again, my criticism of Nike has been gone on long before Colin Kaepernick in this moment. So in this moment, Kaepernick happens to be the deal. But me being critical of Nike, Michael Jordan, or whomever, Lance Armstrong, that's been going on for decades.
See, I also think about it beyond Colin Kaepernick. Look at what they recently have been doing with Serena Williams and the Williams sisters. They are going after edgy athletes because it's going to reach a faction of folks that are going to buy a lot of product. Like, that's as simple as it is. At the end of the day, Nike's in the business of making money, selling shoes, selling product. They know that young people, particularly young minorities, delve heavy in the shoe game. They know by rallying behind Colin Kaepernick, it uplifts the brand and it leaves the other brands chasing behind it.
I think it's going to work well over Twitter, but I just don't think Twitter's the real world. I want to move on to one last final topic on this. How do you think the NFL should feel? They're partners with Nike, just signed a new 10-year agreement with Nike. The NFL has been trying to move on from the national anthem controversy, and here we are just 4 days before the kickoff of the NFL season, and they've just put Colin Kaepernick front and center. How do you think the NFL should feel?
The NFL can't oppose this. They can't resist this. I mean, quietly, behind closed doors, I'm sure some people are muttering, some profanities and saying, oh my, we just signed an 8-year deal with you, Nike, and that's an apparel deal, and now we have to bring politics into this. I understand that some people are going to be disgruntled, but here's the real. If you're the NFL, you say anything in resistance to this, you open up Pandora's box, because now you're starting to say, I want to control mindsets. I want to control personalities. I want to control characters. I want to control people. Because, like I said, their latitude on their roster is going to go from apolitical to too political to some people to not political enough for some people. And the NFL has to sit back and say, just like in our league and our 1,800 guys who are on the field, we're going to have some guys who are going to have commit indiscretions. We're going to have some guys who are just going to be the meat and potatoes, never do anything wrong. And we're going to have some guys who's going to help sell our brand to others. You have to respect that that's going to be the situation, and you got to respect what Nike's doing.
Well, even with the National Football League, when it comes to Colin Kaepernick ranked as one of the top jersey sellers last year. It didn't prevent them from hawking his jersey with number 7 on it. So the league can say whatever, but at the end of the day, it comes down to money, and the league doesn't mind profiting off of Colin Kaepernick and the things that have come on around it.
Profit and policy, brother.
Nike. Look, the NFL is finally getting bullied by another big bully. That's what it comes down to. You can't bully me. You taking our money, and that's it, and just deal with it. And that's really what it is, because like Nike is in the business of selling tennis shoes. That's their business, and making sometimes normal people or athletes superstars. And that's basically what it is.
This comfort that 3 former NFL players seem to have with the NFL being bullied. That's what Eric, I know where you stand on this. You have some animosity.
I like to see the bully get bullied. I like to just go ahead and slap him in the mouth.
I don't get it. I'm very protective of the NFL and pro football because it's an industry that has been marvelous for black men. And I don't get why there's so much people want to see the NFL knocked off its peg or bullied by somebody. I want to see the NFL do what's good for business, because at the end of the day, that's the only value the NFL really can offer the players is money. All this stuff that we're caught up in Twitter and, it's going to be a platform to you to enact change. It's going to be a platform for you to enact feelings and to enact retweets and likes. But in terms of promoting real change, taking a knee and all this other, and commercials isn't going to do it. That's the place to make money, and then you can take that money and support the causes you believe in. I'm just not comfortable with this. Everybody seems to want to see the NFL get bullied, including its former players.
I'm not on that. I'm not on that soapbox saying I want to see the NFL get bullied. But as you want to protect them, and I want to protect a sport that has been great to me as well. However, that doesn't mean I'm going to be stagnant, and that also doesn't mean I'm going to be on the wrong side of history one day trying to suppress the rights and the voice of someone who's trying to speak for those who are underprivileged, who don't have that voice. Here's the thing that is forgotten about the NFL experience for many a player in that locker room, that we have a tremendous gift, that we hone that gift, that we work on our craft to the point where we're professionals. But we understand the adversity, the hurdles, the obstacles that were in our way just to become that same professional. And we cannot forget about those who are treading water or those who are drowning from circumstances that we all birthed from. So I will never forget that experience, and that trumps my NFL experience when I have a platform like this.
Listen, I get his point, but we've all operated at an altitude where I think we should be able to identify what is real change and how do you really impact change? How do you really help the people that were in situations before you? And it's just my position is it's just not through gestures.
No, I agree.
And so,
we all agree there.
But
policy
again,
and profits.
But again, I get the taking a knee is just a gesture. And so and what Nike's doing, just a slogan. And I don't even like the slogan in terms of believe in something and risk everything. Again, we can't even define what to believe in. This whole believe in there's some people that believe in some real crazy things, and we've seen them take real crazy action. And so when I even hear this slogan, I hear it as a promotion of chaos and just do anything. And that's not good enough for us. And this is the problem I keep having with people is they try to recast my message. Is the solutions to our problems are far more complicated than anything that's ever tweeted out. And it's far more complicated than just Twitter. And it's far more complicated than just some quarterback who lost his starting job that in an emotional rush took a knee and started something that he never saw growing into this. It can't just be just do something. It has to be, and again, Nike's promoting that. It's just do something, anything. And it has to be far more strategic and thought out than that. That's my disappointment with Nike and the entire thing. All right, welcome back. Marcellus Wiley, Eric Dickerson, and Bucky Brooks are back. Let's move to Oakland, where Jon Gruden and the Raiders traded star holdout Khalil Mack to the Bears for a couple of first-round picks on Saturday. The move left some people questioning Gruden's judgment and speculating that he and general manager Reggie McKenzie were at odds over the decision, a notion Gruden tried to dispel over the weekend.
They're trying to divide us. People are trying to divide us, and I wanted him gone. He wanted him here. We made a decision as an organization. Mark Davis, Tom Delaney, we all got the information, and we made a decision together. And I'll just say what he said. I read what he said yesterday. It's a decision that we all came to. I know there's maybe some feeling that I was involved on a day-to-day negotiation. I had nothing to do with it. So we were at a standoff, and something had to happen, and here we are.
I'm not sure. I'm a little up in the air on where I am with Jon Gruden. Jon Gruden is a bully, and that has worked for him as a head coach. He turned the Raiders around the first time, won a Super Bowl with Tony Dungy's players in Tampa.
Don't do that.
That's a fact. He won a Super Bowl with Tony Dungy's.
You don't roll out the bed with anything and it just happens. You got to work. Everybody has to work.
All right, so I don't get this move with Khalil Mack, but I also somewhat understand it because I just wouldn't have paid Khalil Mack that much money when I look at the Raiders' defense, and with him, they didn't perform all that well. So can you really make the guy the highest paid defensive player in the league when his defense that he was on didn't play that well? But I'm not sure that Gruden's going to win his locker room with this decision. I don't think the guys on the team are on board with what the Raiders just did, and they blame Gruden.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to kill me to talk about my own kind, former defensive lineman like myself, but you can't pay the guy. We don't, by defensive lineman standards, even if you overachieve, affect the win-loss column to the degree we used to in yesteryear. Yesteryear, guys used to go out there and throw the ball 30 times. We thought,
How far is yesteryear?
Yesteryear, when I played.
That's yesteryear?
Or even before that, definitely before
Reggie
that.
White didn't make a difference, wins and losses.
Wins and losses, let's talk about it. You want to talk about big games, Super Bowl games, games where a guy had 3 or more sacks in the biggest game that year, the Super Bowl. 3 of those 4 guys lost that game. Huh? Coach, I just had 3 sacks. Oh, y'all lost. So the point is the win-loss column historically has not been affected by defensive linemen. Let's talk about Jon Gruden. Jon Gruden is in a unique situation, and because of his contract status of a 10-year, $100 million guaranteed deal in a sport of no guarantees, guess what you are going to do? Some unconventional things. You're on a 10-year plan where every other player is on the next play plan. And that's the problem right here because he didn't even take the initiative to talk to his star player, in part because he's like, I'm going to be here. I'm going to survive whatever he does, up, down, and I have the proper runway to coast, to get this thing going, to fuel it as necessary, or to stand pat and just watch how this develops. He didn't feel the sense of urgency that every other person coaching or playing feels when you're in the National Football League.
This is why you absolutely have to have a checks and balances system within a front office. Coaches think here and now. General managers think about the long-term plan. Reggie McKenzie, I played in Green Bay under Ron Wolf. Reggie McKenzie learned the game under Ron Wolf. You draft, you develop, you re-sign your good players, and they become the core of your team. You drafted Khalil Mack 4th overall. Khalil Mack developed into an all-pro player at 2 positions, was a defensive player of the year. It is now time for him to get paid, and you let him go? That's not good business. Even in this situation, the Raiders had all the rights to retain Khalil Mack. He was playing on a 5th-year option. They had the franchise tag available for 2, maybe 3 more years. At worst, if they didn't want to pay him, they could have strung him along on year-to-year contracts and kept him until he was out of his prime, 30 years old, before letting him go. To me, this is a short-sighted coach not being able to see the full perspective on how to build a championship team.
Man, y'all took everything I was going to say.
Oh, man, I got some more.
Everything I was
Come on,
going to say.
Edie, you got it.
Man, look, I agree with what you said, is that Jon Gruden has got that $100 million guaranteed, whatever, $90 million guaranteed contract, and it's like, hey, so what? But a guy like Khalil Mack, you need him in the locker room. He's a locker room guy. He's a great player. He made a defensive player, linebacker, and defensive end. That just doesn't happen. You know, it's like a running back making all-pro at running back and wide out, not wide out. He's that kind of player. He's a game changer. When the Rams traded me in 1987, I did not want to go, but in a sense I had no choice. Was it a good deal? No, it was not. Only player that really panned out was Flipper Anderson, kinda. So you got to see, they'll get 2 first-round draft picks, but they're going to always be looking for, man, he reminds me of Khalil Mack, but he's not Khalil Mack. You can't replace a guy like that.
Will you guys stop with this English class? Because all y'all telling me is stories. Let's go to math class. Numbers. Last year, top 2 sack artists in the NFL, Chandler Jones, DeMarcus Lawrence. Their teams make the playoffs? Even make the playoffs? No. Let's talk about that same guy, Chandler Jones, who Bill Belichick knew was a talent and knew one day was going to get paid and knew one day this guy had the potential to lead the league in sacks. And what did Bill Belichick do to him? You could go. And what did New England do? Still go to the Super Bowl. My point is, this kills me saying this. I've been there. I've seen it. I've had 2 sacks. We got beat by 30. I've seen somebody get 3, 4, 5 sacks. Y'all got beat by 20. And then there are games when you don't do anything and we win. So yesteryear with 30 pass attempts, it made sense.
Marcellus,
but now there's 50, 60.
Marcellus, I'm being respectful when I say this, and I really am. Because, trust me, I followed your entire career. You were a hell of a player. But you were not a guy that required a double team.
Oh, excuse me, Dougie Fresh.
Khalil Mack.
Top 50 player twice.
Khalil Mack. You have to adjust your entire game plan around.
I like it.
That makes a difference.
I like it.
That's why he got paid.
It's like
shocked.
I'm shocked too. I'm shocked too.
I'm shocked.
It's like a Lawrence Taylor. You say he wouldn't be worth the money in today's market.
You remember that yesteryear comment I made when they only had 30 attempts and they were sitting at 3 yards in a cloud of dust? And oh my God, you can affect 3 plays with a sack.
The only way to get off the field is to create 3rd and long.
I can't believe you're going corporate because you're doing like so many other people. You want to pay the position and not the player. So we got all these quarterbacks. Case Keenum making $18 million. Blake Bortles making $18 million. We want to pay those guys, but we don't want to pay a guy that's an elite player.
Bucky?
That doesn't make any sense to me.
Strong argument there, Bucky, but here's the thing. At quarterback, you have the ball in your hand every play. At quarterback, you're the best offensive lineman on your team. When we used to play Peyton Manning, we used to look up for it, and we say, Tariq Glenn, he's nice. Everybody else, okay, good, bad, ugly. But we were like, that's Peyton Manning. Now you see that's Tom Brady. They're the best offensive linemen. They protect themselves. So Khalil Mack with your best pass rush move, and I've seen it, and it's amazing, and it's better than anything I ever had. I give you that part, not the other part. But the thing about it is, if I'm a smart quarterback, I get the ball away.
Yes.
And in today's, with the passing attempts going up, and also, let's be real, the distance throw sometimes going down, we can now minimize your pass rushing efforts.
All right, welcome back. Marcellus Wiley is back with me, and we'll be here full-time starting September 10th when SFY moves to its new time, 3 p.m. Eastern. All right, Marcellus, beautiful to have you here today. Just to give a little tease of what we're going to be doing every day on Speak for Yourself, starting next week, off to an awesome start. But I want to take everybody back just to establish your foundation, give people the backstory. You've been in this business a long time. What attracted me, or what maybe the first time I ever met you and I saw you perform in the media, I immediately told you, I don't know if you remember, I was like, dude, your upside is tremendous. You could be the man in this business. And it's because of the Ivy League education, the Compton growing up, the LA to Columbia story is amazing to me. Explain that to our viewers. Compton to Columbia. 180-pound running back to 270-pound NFL defensive end. Give us that story.
Yeah, grew up in Compton, raised there in South Central Los Angeles. It's really a story of my mother and my father being in the home and being aspirational. So imagine this, my mother's mother, my grandmother, moves from Watts to Compton for a better life. Amazing, right? In the 1950s, you hear this story of that's what she did to give us a front yard, a backyard, and a duplex. And I thought my grandmother was rich growing up. I had no real connection with wealth, the outside world beyond my borders, which was the freeway and the beach. And that's all I knew. Compton, South Central Los Angeles. My mother, unfortunately, lost 3 of her brothers violently because of gangs, the streets. 2 murdered, 1 committed suicide. And she said she was going to make her promise that she raised her 2 kids away from that madness. So we moved to South Central LA thinking this is a better life. And it was for our educational purposes and better schooling. But it was always put in me from my family, especially my mother, that you had to do better. You had to do more. So I put a cape on at a young age. I quickly realized I had 2 talents. I was good in school. I actually loved to learn. And I was good in football and running track. I was good in sports. And I said, with this cape on, I'm gonna fly us out the hood and I'm gonna make sure I bring my entire family on my back. And that's been the journey ever since.
A running back in high school and then a running back, I think, at Columbia initially.
Yeah.
How did that transition happen?
Yeah, I humbly say this. I was one of the top running backs at a Pop Warner level, like next level, like recruited, big time, everything. And I got to high school and my knees started to suffer. My knees started to have Osgood slaughters, which is you're growing too fast, but you're uncoordinated, painful moments in my life. And I wasn't the same player, which was a blessing in disguise because what happened is I got recruited on a major level, but not as big as anticipated. So I started to look at the game from outside perspective. I started to say, what if football doesn't work out? So when I'm getting recruited by big time schools, I was attracted to Columbia because it was my safety net in case these knees want to give out one more time. So I'm 180 pounds. My mother was 240 pounds. I'm in college and my mom was bigger than me. It took me to my junior year to get bigger than my mom. And I'm one of those guys. My father always said, a marathon is 26.2 miles, but it's not after you take the first step. So all I did was take the next step. All I did was work hard that day. All I did was make sure I did my job that day. And that started to snowball and that turned into something.
I can remember as a columnist in Kansas City, following the Kansas City Chiefs around. I go to San Diego. It's Derek Thomas versus Junior Seau. If my memory, but I know Junior Seau was there.
Oh, yeah. Special.
And then this number 75 for San Diego makes a play.
Getting double teamed too.
Yeah, getting double teamed makes a play. And they start playing a theme song about that dude. And I'm like, are they playing a song about this dude, Marcellus Wiley? I had never seen that. And then that took me down the path of understanding oh, this dude's a DJ and has a passion for hip hop. And I've always had this love-hate thing with music or with hip hop music.
Yeah.
Love it, but I can't stand the depravity of it. And so that was another reason why I wanted to work with you because I know how genuine your passion is for hip hop and music.
Yeah, my first love was music. The way to discipline me growing up was to take away my tapes. My mom said, boy, if you don't stop, and I take those tapes away, and I had every single rap artist's album, every single one. I didn't care if he was good, bad, ugly. I bought it because I was so into the culture. And what happened was I get to the NFL, when I finally get some money, got a signing bonus, I buy all DJ equipment, production equipment. And a couple of my friends from high school, we're just making songs and we're just going on and I'm a DJ and I've DJed for Outkast, Kanye West, Run DMC. I had a tremendous DJing career. And they made this song, my friends, that was Who's That Dude? And because I used to DJ the actual pregame warm-up music, they said, Marcellus, you got a song about you? Because whenever you make a play, which was a lot, we're gonna play your song, Who's That Dude? And it took fire. The crowd knew the lyrics. I would do the buck the boat dance, and it was a lot of love for those years.
I hate to ask you to be quick here, but I got to. Just on this topic. The other thing, man, I follow your social media, and I love the relationship between you and your son. I love the relationship between you and your daughter. You put out a tweet a couple months ago about make sure you go on dates with your daughter.
Yes.
I love the way you promote your family and how passionate you are about your family.
Yes, like you said, in this world right now, all the issues going on, all the clickbait, all the talk, I just wanted to be something different. I know I can have a bigger social media following if I go on the other side of that fence, if I go over there and just play down to people's lower states. But I'm like, I want to be inspirational. I'm still aspirational. I want to promote family. I think it all starts there. People always ask me, man, how'd you go from the hood to the Ivy League and then become a football player and now you're on TV? And I simply say it starts with an identity. And my identity is my core family values. And I just say what Mark Twain told everyone, and I take as my core mantra.
Is this some Wiley wisdom?
Wileyism. Wileyism. I'm telling you, this is what saved me and gave me the railroad to my life outside the neighborhood. Life is a competition between you and yourself. Remember that? Go after it every day and let it snowball.
So glad you're here. Looking forward to the conversations every day. All right, welcome back. Marcellus Wiley is back. We're joined now by Fox College football analyst Joel Klatt. Let's move to South Bend, where Joel's favorite coach, Jim Harbaugh, had yet another embarrassing big game loss, with Michigan looking completely overmatched against Notre Dame. A lot of people were projecting a big year for Harbaugh, but this weekend looked like more of the same out of a coach who has been all hype since arriving in Ann Arbor. Marcellus, you're about to referee a wrestling match that's been going on.
Whoa, y'all in the same weight class?
Yeah, for 2 years.
No,
Intellectually, it's not even close.
Oh.
Intellectually, I'm in the heavyweight
You're right.
division.
I'm coming down.
He's coming up. Listen, man. Michigan and Jim Harbaugh. Joel thinks I'm just ridiculously critical of Harbaugh. I'm
Well,
really
your
not.
lead. I mean, your lead was ridiculous.
I didn't write that.
You did. I think
it.
you did right.
I didn't.
You
I just
said
read
it.
Listen,
I don't care who wrote it. I care who said it.
here's the facts. He just needs to prove the hype. I felt like everybody just thought he was going to come into Michigan and immediately be the equal of Urban Meyer and Nick Saban, and I was like, I want to see the proof first. That's all I want to see because. And Joel, I'm going to throw you a little bit of a curveball. I just think college football and the game of football has gone over enormous change over the last 7-8 years.
Sure.
You don't get to practice as much. You don't get to hit as much. I think there are certain coaches that are really struggling with that and how to instill toughness, how to develop their offensive line. Brady Hoke couldn't do it. I haven't seen any proof that Harbaugh's been able to do it, to develop an offensive line and develop that overall toughness. I just need some proof that he's on the same level as Saban and these other guys, and we're just not getting it.
I don't disagree with you, right? I mean, the lead, though, the way listen, they didn't lay an egg. That was a pretty evenly matched game, right? I mean, Notre Dame played great on defense. Michigan played great on defense. They were essentially even when it comes to yards during the course of the game. Notre Dame just made more plays. And quite frankly, what I'm more disturbed with is exactly what you were leading on to, is the fact that Michigan doesn't have an identity up front. You know, their offensive line cannot do what Stanford did under Jim Harbaugh. They can't line up and just give it to Toby Gerhard 30 times and win the game. That's clearly not going to be Michigan's MO. And I think that's the alarming trend, right? Is that if you don't have the offensive line that you're used to having, if you're Jim Harbaugh, and you can't lean on that, then maybe it's not going to work out. And I would agree with you. He's not to the Saban, Urban Meyer, but they are better off. They are a much better organization program right now than they were under
just
Rodriguez
lost
or
4
Hoke.
straight in a row.
I understand
Brady
that.
Hoke never did.
Well, unfortunately, since you want to go into
Do you want to go
past,
over Hoke's resume?
Yeah, exactly.
No, I don't. I should have never
okay.
said it. I
Please don't,
apologize.
'cause I've got it ready.
I apologize.
Right. Before Harbaugh got to town, 7 of the 8 years before, fewer than 10 wins. Harbaugh hits the ground running, wins 10 games first 2 years. Now, they've hit a wall right now, and they're trying to figure out that identity in part because his DNA, the way he looks at a football team, he doesn't have that currently constructed in Michigan. So right now, all I saw out of week 1 was the biggest deterrent to scheduling a good team in week 1.
I agree.
Like, you didn't have to renew this rivalry that has been dormant for the last 4 years with Notre Dame. But he raised his hand and he said, we want Notre Dame out the gate. This is Exhibit A of why you don't want to start with a formidable opponent because situations like this.
And let me just echo your sentiment. Of these 3 teams, who was most impressive this last week? Michigan, Michigan State, or Penn State?
Michigan. Penn State. Oh.
Michigan. You're exactly
Penn
right.
State
He doesn't want to admit it. Look at him sitting over there, silent, biting your lip.
Penn State
Listen,
played Appalachian State and surely was looking ahead. Off the top of my head, I can't remember who Michigan.
It was Utah State.
Utah State.
Michigan State outgained Utah State by about 100 yards, and App State outgained Penn State. They outgained them. Yeah. By the way, App State lost the turnover battle, and they had 9 penalties.
We're off on a tangent.
No, we're not. No, we're not. No, we're not.
I want to deal with Harbaugh.
No. You do this all the time. Don't let him do this.
You got him on the ropes.
Hey, don't let him do this. See him running right now. He's running around the ring, running around there. Get in here, heavyweight. This is the one thing I'm going to tell you right now. Yeah. If Michigan would have played App State, it would have been much uglier for App State than it was with Penn State. Yeah. And they go on the road, speaking of Michigan, against a very good team who I've got in the top 10 right now. Michigan played okay. They made too many mistakes. I'm with you. See, I'm going to throw you a bone. No. I'm with you. He is underperforming in the last 18 games. There's no doubt about it, and it's got to change. Well, that identity's got to change. But overall, they're in a better place.
Careful with this underperformance because you're being hypercritical in part because this is self-imposed pressure. This is coming from a guy who has a different personality than a Nick Saban, than even a Bill Belichick of the professional level. Guys who keep it close to the vest, which manages expectations. When you're out there like Jim Harbaugh with the outlandish personality, when you take shots at Alabama and all the other Power 5 schools, and then you take your kids outside our borders, when you put that type of pressure on you unfairly, but still, the reality is people will come at you quicker than they should. Sure. You're one of those guys. You forget those first 2 years of 10 wins after coming off of losing season after losing season.
Because I don't have to go all the way back the first 2 years. I'm just looking at what I saw Saturday. 4th and 4, I believe, in the 3rd quarter, he panicked and went for it when their offense clearly wasn't clicking. Changed field position. In a close defensive battle, you just don't surrender that kind of field position foolishly. Bad decision by Harbaugh. Here's another bad decision by Harbaugh. When you have Shea Patterson, who's played in the gun and the spread down at Ole Miss, and I never saw him go to the 4 and 5 wide, spread him out. Let's play Shea Patterson's game. We can't just line up and beat him up the way I want to. I didn't see any offensive adjustment by Jim Harbaugh. He's supposed to be this guru, this guy that can do this and do that, and he can turn Kaepernick into a Super Bowl quarterback, Alex Smith into
It's interesting. I had the exact different sentiment. I thought to myself, I don't care what Shea did at Ole Miss. You put him under center so that you can allow some of those young offensive linemen to roll off the ball. You know, the inexperienced offensive linemen, you don't want them to get a rhythm, right, against you. How do they get a rhythm? Roll them off the ball a little bit. Yeah. Let them come out there and not have to sit back and pass protection and be technically sound. Let them get going a little bit. But it's interesting. It's just a different way to look at it, right? I thought that they were
he needs to win that game.
To be too good.
He needs to win that game at some point.
I agree with you.
In the 3rd quarter, it's got to be our offensive line ain't doing it. I'm going to develop them next week against whoever they're playing next week. I can't think of. It's like Notre Dame's playing Ball State. That's
Nebraska.
A development game. They got Western Michigan. They got a development game with Ball State. Do that then. When you're playing Notre Dame out the gate and you've had the start that he has, and Notre Dame didn't even play that great. You just got to win that game. I would have turned that game over to Shea Patterson at some point. They never did until it was too late.
Well, you can't because you're not multidimensional. 58 yards rushing. Like, we're not even respecting you guys at the run game. And this is a 96th ranked offense from last year. That was a bad offense last year. You can't just bring Shea Patterson in and say fix everything, including our no run game and no offensive alignment. You just can't ask that.
And listen, I agree with you. He's not Saban, he's not Meyer, and he needs to win one of these soon.
Can we record Joel saying that he's not Saban, he's not Meyer? Thank you. I've been waiting 2 years.
Was that it? That was all you wanted?
That's all I needed to hear.
All right, Coach, everyone had questions about who was going to start at quarterback when this game started. What answers did you have about your quarterbacks after watching both of them play tonight?
Well, I still like both guys. I think both guys are good players. I think both guys can help our team. All right, so why do you continually try to get me to say something that doesn't respect one of them? I'm not going to, so quit asking.
All right, welcome back. Marcellus is here for last call. Let's move to Nick Saban, who ended up calling ESPN reporter Maria Taylor to apologize for that display after Alabama's win over Louisville. Marcellus, did Saban need to apologize here?
Absolutely not. If you look at this situation, it just takes me back to 2013. Amazing how the world turns, but people don't evolve. Richard Sherman, Aaron Andrews, in the emotional context right after a game. When we're in a different space, you know this. Definitely. We're in a different place, and you come up to me and you want to know what really goes through my mind when I'm in the Lions' Den before I have time to take it and unpack. You know what happens? You're going to get moments like this. Brutal honesty that a lot of people are going to have this shock reaction. But from a former player perspective, from just a citizen watching the game, respect that the guy just told you the brutal truth.
Yeah, I'm a huge Maria Taylor fan, probably her number one fan. Thought her question was great. Mm-hmm. I didn't have a real problem with Saban being gruff. That's what football coaches are, particularly in that moment. No reason to apologize. No. All right, to Baltimore, where the Ravens have decided to keep RG3 as a third quarterback on the roster alongside Joe Flacco and first-round pick and media darling Lamar Jackson. Marcellus, is it a bad sign for Lamar that the Ravens kept RG3?
Yeah, it is a bad sign, but I saw this coming. Had experienced a few NFL veterans myself, got a chance to be around all the top marketing draft prospects, including Lamar Jackson. And we collectively walked away from that meeting saying, this guy needs a big slice of humble pie. And who better to serve it to him than an RG3 who beat for beat almost walked this same path. So, yeah, unfortunately, the guy needs to be taken back before he could progress.
Ravens keeping 3 quarterbacks for the first time in forever. Not a good sign. All right, that was Marcellus, day 1.